Good morning, third grade, and welcome to Studio 37. My name is Mr. Shear, and I will be your art teacher. I hope we have a wonderful year. I know this is going to be a very trying, challenging, and interesting time to be alive, and I look forward to sharing this time with you. There are some things I want to go over before we start our class, and mostly that is the rules. So, as I was saying, I have a plethora of, or a plentiful rules you have to follow in Studio 37. As you can see right here, they are both to work hard and be nice to people. But more importantly than rules is having a mission or a purpose or a reason we're here. And that, my friends, is in Studio 37, we work to increase our knowledge, understanding, and ability to create art. The skills we develop will be used to improve our district, community, nation, and world. These are things you can do both here and remotely. So I hope we strive to improve our world in these trying times. Our first major unit of study will be dealing with the culture of ancient Egypt. I really enjoy this, and we will both look at how they made art, why they made art, and how that impacted both their society and their religious beliefs. So I hope we have a very fun time. And for our very first project, we're going to depict ourselves as an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, or king or queen. And ancient Egypt had both male and female pharaohs. Something we have yet to do in this country is have a female president. So even though they were 5,000 years ago, maybe they're ahead of us in other ways. So stay tuned as I demonstrate both the aesthetic quality or the beauty in the way they made art and demonstrate how to draw a pharaoh. Then I encourage you to do the same, and maybe you can draw your mom or dad as a pharaoh and have them do the same for you. Thank you, and stay tuned. Before we start drawing, I would like to take a moment to examine some artwork from ancient Egypt to help us understand what we're getting into. This is artwork that can be found along the walls, and you're going to see hieroglyphics, or ancient Egyptians writing. You're going to see an ankh, which is the symbol of life, and you're going to see the weird way in which they drew the side view or the profile of the face and included a frontal eye. After examining some of these works, we are going to dive into creating our own ancient Egyptian self-portrait with ourselves as a pharaoh. Because yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are kings and queens of our times, and we are building our future. So let's dive right in. So we are now going to examine the art and the hieroglyphs of the ancient Egyptians in preparation for you making your own pharaoh portrait. So as you see, these guys are depicted with the side view or the profile of face, along with the front view or a frontal eye. These up here are cartouches. These would indicate the names of the people being depicted. Of course, they are surrounded by hieroglyphs everywhere. And of course, there's a rich pattern across the top. I would encourage you to use pattern in your artwork. And she has an ankh in her hand. An ankh in ancient Egypt is a symbol for life. Moving forward. Again, very elaborate, beautiful headdress. This, you might remember, is a cartouche. We will be making one of these next week. Be excited about it. And again, you see these symbols on the side. These are hieroglyphs. This is a frieze, or carved into a wall. Again, you'll notice the frontal eye on the profile face, the beautiful jewelry, and I hope you guys now know those were called hieroglyphs. A different style headdress on this beautiful pharaoh. Again, you see the hieroglyphs, and this again is a cartouche. We will be making a cartouche next week where you will write your own name, and feel free to decorate your pharaoh portraits with hieroglyphs and cartouches as you sketch. Here are some different headdresses you might want to include on your pharaoh, and of course 3 different styles of false beards you see along the bottom. Another example of the plethora or multiple headdresses you can put onto your pharaoh. And yet one more example of all the different headdresses that you can place on your pharaoh. And finally, here is a list of hieroglyphs for you to use in both developing a cartouche in a couple weeks as well as working on your pharaoh portrait. I hope you enjoyed this information and I hope you find it useful. Next up is a song taught to me by my beloved art teacher, Miss Nancy Murray. To share with you a song taught to me by my art teacher, which inspired me to become an art teacher, which I have now been doing for about twice as long as you've been alive. Which makes me kind of old, but I'm having fun with it. So this song goes like this. The ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago built mighty sculptures, you must surely know, painting profile faces with the frontal eye, constructing pyramids reaching to the sky. The ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago built mighty sculptures, you must surely know. I hope you enjoyed that. And we're back. I hope you guys are just as ready to start drawing as I am, because figuring out this technology has been very trying, yet drawing on a board is something I've been doing a long time. So first, let's loosen up, stretch, all the way up, stretch, all the way down, touch your toes, all the way to this side, all the way to that side. Now, as we draw, I want to tell you some tips about how to become better at drawing, because although it's not necessary to be able to draw to be an artist, most people want to draw better. So one thing I can tell you to do is to draw big. Always use up the whole page. The bigger you draw, the easier it is to add details and make a more compelling picture. Also, you need to draw lightly. Artists aren't great artists because they don't make mistakes. Artists are great artists because they learn how to fix it. So if you draw lightly, you can always erase. On with mistakes, it's always best to fix your mistakes and then erase where you messed up, because if your brain thinks the line goes in one spot and you erase it, you're more than likely going to draw it right back in that same spot and erase it again, right back in that same spot and erase it again until you erased a hole in your paper. I know I have done that. I'm sure many of you have as well. The last thing I really want to tell you and get you to start practicing is to draw with your arm and not your whole arm and not your wrist. Most of you guys probably draw with your wrist, as I do too, as I am guilty of sometimes, because we write with our wrists. But you have much more control over whatever material you're using when you use your whole arm. There's a lot bigger muscles in your arm than in your wrist. So if you take those tips and practice them, you'll be far ahead of where I was when I learned those tips in drawing too in college. So go ahead and start practicing all 4 of those things today. The first thing I'm going to do to start my pharaoh portrait is just draw a circle. Notice how I wasn't talking while I was drawing, because if you talk, you're using a different side of your brain than when you draw. So to best focus, it's easiest to focus on your drawing when you're drawing and your talking when you're talking. Now I'm going to simply add what's going to soon later be my chin. The back of my neck and the front of my neck. And I'll go ahead and throw some shoulders on here too. So now we're starting to get a face shape. Of course, we're doing a side view or a profile. Profile, of course, means the side view of the face. So I'm going to go ahead and add that right now. Eyebrow, eye, nose. And now, of course, I can erase all the lines I don't want. I'm going to add my ear and a smile because I'm happy to be with you today. Now, I hope you remember from all the discussion we've had so far that the Egyptians draw a profile face, but then they include a frontal eye. I guess I should go ahead and draw a profile eye first so you have something to compare it to. That is what you would see if you were looking at a side view of someone's face. See? But in the Egypt tradition, they would have drawn a frontal eye. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my false beard and maybe my real mustache, because why not be silly? Maybe an eyebrow. I'm going to get a nice big false beard. I like the one that curled up on the end. See how I'm fixing my mistakes and then erasing the lines I don't want? Maybe I can add a pattern to my beard. If you remember, the ancient Egyptians were very, very particular when it comes to adding patterns to their artwork. Now I'm going to go ahead and add maybe a big necklace, as we saw in a lot of the photographs that I showed you. I'm going to go ahead and include another pattern here, maybe stripes with circles on the end. These could be jewels. And finally, I'm going to add a headdress. Again, erase the lines I don't want after I'm done with them. And maybe a pattern on my headdress as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there it is, Mr. Shear as a Pharaoh. I hope you enjoyed this week's lesson. For homework or for your assignment is to practice drawing yourself as a Pharaoh, and I challenge you to also draw either your parents, your brother, your sister, your neighbor as a Pharaoh. This is all practice. Next week we will work on completing our final Pharaoh portrait, which we will color and add patterns and add hieroglyphs and add details, because details are how artists tell stories. Thank you for your time and attention, and have a great week. Nothing but love from Studio 37.